Everything was normal. You were just driving home or laying on your bed, and then suddenly your heart does something that it's never done before. For just a split second, you felt like it stopped. And then, bang, one huge heartbeat, strong enough to make you stop whatever you were doing. You think, wait, was that my heart? Suddenly, you can feel each and every single heartbeat. Your mind starts racing. Am I having a heart attack? Should I call someone? Is this dangerous? So you do what everyone else does. You grab your phone, you type on Google, heart skipped a beat. Within seconds, the internet's convinced you whether you're having a heart attack or this is just something stress related. So who's right? Your body or Google? Because what if I told you the sensation that millions of us feel every single day is often not what we think it is. However, there are also times where it should not be ignored. So today we're going to separate the harmless from the serious, and by the end of this video, you'll be able to understand what that skipped heartbeat was, and more importantly, when it's time to seek medical advice. Welcome to BodyTalk. My name is Josh and I'm a cardiac physiologist. A big part of my job involved recording and analyzing ECGs, heart rhythms, and blood pressure monitors. And one thing I saw over and over again was just how frightened people become when they have that sensation, what they think is a skipped beat. So now let's actually find out what it probably was. So, does your heart skip a beat? Probably no. In fact, if your heart truly stopped beating, even for several seconds, a skipped beat would be the least of your worries. So you ask, why did it feel so real? For me to explain that, we need to understand how the heart normally works. Now think of your heart like a drummer. Every second of the day, it's keeping a steady rhythm. Most of the time, the rhythm is so consistent that you don't even notice it's there. But every now and then, an extra beat sneaks in earlier than it should. Imagine the drummer accidentally hit the drum a fraction of a second too soon. What happens next is a tiny pause, and then the next beat lands. A little harder, a little stronger. That's the beat you notice. Not because your heart suddenly became stronger, but because it had more time to fill with blood before squeezing again. That stronger heartbeat, combined with that brief pause, creates that sensation of a skipped beat. People describe it as a skipped beat, but it's quite the opposite. What really happened is that it squeezed too early. And in the world of cardiology, these beats are called ectopic beats. These are basically beats that arrive a little bit earlier compared to the regular rhythm. These beats can either come from the upper chambers, which are named premature atrial contractions, or PACs for short, or they can come from the bottom two chambers, which are called PVCs, premature ventricular contractions. The names may sound intimidating, they're just simply describing where that quicker beat came from. And for many people, these beats are surprisingly common. Which leads me to the next question. If they're so common, why do they happen in the first place? Part 3. Why does it happen? Well, sometimes they don't need a reason to happen at all. Healthy hearts can have these occasional ectopic beats. In fact, many people have them every single day without even knowing. So now you may ask, why did you notice yours? Oftentimes, it's because something has made your heart a little more irritable. Now that could be due to too many coffees. Maybe you're under a lot of stress. Maybe you've been sleeping terribly. Or maybe you sat down after a long day and everything around you has gone quiet. Because here's something most people don't realize. Your heart isn't necessarily beating any differently at night compared to day. You're just listening more closely. During the day, your brain is busy with work, traffic, conversations, music, notifications. But when you're laying in bed, there's nothing competing for your attention. So that one unexpected beat suddenly feels impossible to ignore. Stress can make it even worse because it changes what your body is paying attention to. The more anxious you become, the more you notice your heartbeat. And the more you notice your heartbeat, the more anxious you become. See the cycle? And that one feeling of having a skipped beat can turn into an entire evening of checking your pulse regularly and wondering if something is seriously wrong. Now, what's more important is how your heart behaves overall, which brings us to the question that really matters. How do you know when that feeling of a skipped beat is just the occasional irritation, or is it your body's way of asking for help? Part 4, when should you actually worry? So, How can you differentiate between a harmless beat or whether it's something more serious? The truth is, one skipped beat by itself rarely tells the whole story. It's everything around it that matters. For example, if that skipped beat is followed by crushing chest pain, that's a different conversation. If it happens and you pass out, or even if you feel like you're going to pass out, that's definitely not something you should brush off. If your heart suddenly races out of nowhere and won't settle, especially if you're feeling dizzy and nauseous, it deserves medical attention. And if those skipped beats only happen during exercise, particularly if they're making you feel unwell, that's something you should have assessed. Notice the pattern? It's not just the skipped beat. It's the company it keeps. Because a single unexpected beat in a healthy person is very different from a skipped beat that is accompanied by warning signs. There's another group of people who should take palpitations a little bit more seriously. If you're diagnosed with a heart disease, or you have a family history of cardiac death, or previously you've been told that you have an abnormal rhythm. Now, some of you may be thinking, mine happens all the time. The answer to that is, frequency alone doesn't tell us whether it's dangerous. Some people experience thousands of these ectopic beats every single day, and they're completely benign. And in comparison, others only feel a handful. But because their symptoms or their underlying heart condition, they need further investigation. That's why it's impossible to diagnose yourself. Your history, your symptoms, your examination, and finally, an ECG or a 24-hour or a multi-day Holter monitor are what tell the full story. So my advice is, if these episodes are becoming more frequent, lasting longer, or worrying you, don't ignore them, get them assessed. Not because it means something is seriously wrong, but because reassurance backed up by proper assessment is always better than uncertainty. Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. If there's one thing that I want you to take away, is that not every skipped beat is dangerous, but everyone deserves to know what their body's trying to tell them. So until next time, stay curious, ask questions. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next Body Talk.